Good evening and welcome to Community Forum. I'm your host Byron Campbell and welcome wherever you are. And of course, Chris Diali, our co-host. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron. Pleasure to be here as usual.
Yeah, Chris, we have a lot to talk about this evening, but let me just first say our special guest this evening, there is some politics, of course. We talked to Justin Pierre. He's, of course, labor market consultant and a researcher, and he's a partner in Dunn Pierre Barrett and Company Limited. So he'll be joining us to talk a lot about politics, what's happening in Trinidad, and what's the present context in Grenada, politically speaking, yeah. But Chris, more violence in the past week or so. We've had a shooting, a homicide in Victoria, and you've had one on the weekend, a young man, again, very unfortunate. I think this is our sixth homicide for the year, which is we're not yet half the year. This is clearly raising our numbers, and this is not good at all. Particularly young people are involved, young lives are lost. The question is, how do we manage this? How do we mitigate? How do we reduce the incidents, this violence? Why is it happening so frequently in our society? Has the gun amnesty helped? Did it resolve anything for us? What is your sense of the policy or the advocacy to curb this trend?
Well, from where I sit, Byron, two major things are here happening.
Yeah.
These crimes and these deaths and so on is primarily among males to start. And secondly, we seem as a society not to have any sort of patience when we, in a particular situation, an issue that may come up, and the first thing we do is grab a cutlass, grab a gun, you know, a knife or whatever, to go and settle the situation, which says to me that there is a lot of work we need to do when it comes to dealing with different ways to, you know, solve situation, dispute resolution. You may have a dispute between your neighbors, between your friends, you know, whatever, your family, and the first thing we resort to is violent instruments or use of violent instruments. Use of instruments to create a violence. And that says that a society, to me, needs a lot of social attention to what is causing that. You're not sure if it's economic conditions, you're not sure if it's psychological conditions. We say when people commit crimes, something has gone wrong with them mentally. We're not sure. And probably we need to do some deeper research involving the churches and everybody. The
Civil society.
Civil society in general,
the
NGO community, to understand what is driving this. And particularly among our young people, we don't know if it's the media, what they're watching, or they're listening, the music. We just don't seem to have a firm understanding.
And as you said, it's happening among more the male population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a cause and effect. And when we have spoken to people here on this program that are involved in social work, and they will tell you that it's getting worse from the standpoint that young people have no patience to deal with anything that, you know, conflict with what they believe or what they're doing. And that is an issue that we need to see how we could, you know, stemify that thing.
It's particularly, Chris, you know, when you know the families sometimes and you see the pain and the sorrow that they're going through, it
the loss is for everybody.
Yeah, it's very, and for the society, we've lost our lives.
Because the perpetrator as well as the victim, everybody loses, nobody wins.
Very, very unfortunate. Chris, there was a launch of Carnival 2025 last week. I looked at it on television. It was very impressive. I thought the Carnival committee put on a really good show. But what was really impressing for me was the Carnival Queens, because they came on from all the parishes, and I thought they represented themselves well. They spoke well. I'm excited about that. In fact, that might be, I'm thinking about attending that show, Chris. It looks, it's a good show. Carnival Queen show, yeah. Oh. But overall, I think the presentation, the promotion was well done. Kudos to the committee.
Well, I mean, I didn't see it. I was off island, but I believe the launching in April is a good step, so that people could expect, could expect what is going to happen in August. And the different aspects of Carnival, Queen Show, Fancy Mass, everybody will get an option. And of course, you can't leave out the jab on what Grenada's Carnival has to offer for 2025. And that is good from that point of view, that the committee launched early. And the people who are reveling Carnival have expectations of certain things to happen. So that is a good thing, Monday night mass, the usual things, and so on, so that we could get organized and the people involved can organize early, so that the product that we put out for 2025 could attract kind of visitors.
It's a major economic and it's a major cultural event for the year. So, and a lot of people depend on it for livelihoods.
And so I mean, in the past we have had late launches that didn't work well. So it's good that the Carnival Committee has done some work. And it's happening, and they did it early.
Chris, on the regional scene, we've had the situation with Guyana and Venezuela. We've had the International Court of Justice ruling on, because in Guyana, the Essequibo region, that's a disputed area where Venezuela is claiming rights, of course, Guyana is claiming rights, and that has gone to the International Court of Justice. But the present ruling is, what the present ruling does, it's saying the ruling is that Venezuela should not proceed with the planned elections for the area pending the outcome of the official ruling by the court on ownership of this disputed area. But the Venezuela is very upset about the ruling, saying that the court cannot interfere in its internal affairs. But whereas, I mean, they are a member of the UN, and the ICJ has jurisdiction. That's official. Guyana, of course, welcomes the ruling and is prepared to work with the court. So all is not going well there, because Venezuela is not accepting it, Guyana is accepting it. So we don't know where this could go or where it can lead. But clearly, we want this area to remain a region of peace. And we watch and see who is speaking to Venezuela to. As far as I'm concerned, the court should be respected. Yeah,
I mean, the fact that this is not the first time Venezuela have not agreed with the ruling of the court. This matter is long outstanding, and Venezuela continues to agitate. And my understanding is they're trying a backdoor thing, and trying to have elections for the disputed region, trying to say to Guyana, listen, this is my territory, I'm going to have elections as a constituency area of Venezuela, so that we could get political authority to rule. So it's interesting what they're trying, and of course the court has said, listen guys, this decision on who officially has jurisdiction has not come back yet, so don't do anything further to aggravate the situation, which is a prudent way to operate. But again, Byron, because of the value of oil and gas in that particular area now, including outside Suriname, Guyana,
whole region,
the whole region, and you see the elections in Trinidad with the new Dr. Munilal in terms of the energy minister, and he's making approaches to Suriname and Guyana and Grenada as well, to see how Trinidad, as a major player for all these years, could work with us to their benefit and our benefit. So it's something that is going to continue, and Venezuela needs to understand that CARICOM doesn't support what they're doing either.
At all.
So they're not a CARICOM member, but at the end of the day, CARICOM is in support of Guyana, which is a member, and Suriname, and so on. So, I mean, I hear what Maduro is saying, but it doesn't seem as though the world is going to support this move.
And the region.
And the region, and we need to keep it, as you said, a zone of peace.
Reasonable. Chris, on the local scene, party boat cruises. This is very popular. In recent times, new boats have come on the scenes. In fact, I understand there's one last month, there's another one coming again later this month. So very popular. But safety is always a big issue with these party cruises, because you're in the water, you're very close to the water, a lot of alcohol is being consumed. But what's interesting today, the Port Authority revoked the license for the MV Embassy, having violated the standards of the amount of passengers they were licensed to carry. And they've been doing this since last year, apparently. So I think that's most appropriate, and let me say kudos to the Port Authority. They took long to do this, though, because this is clearly a major safety issue that should not be tolerated in any circumstances.
All these party boats have to get license from Port Authority. That's the rules. And when you come for a license, you have to indicate your capacity, which indicates your amount of carrying devices for safety. In this case, your vest, live vest, and insurance, because the insurance is an important part of that. So Port Authority looks at all of these things and others to give you a license. And if you're in violation, of course, Port Authority is patient from the point of view. They give you an opportunity to rectify the situation. But if you're not making an effort and you continue to violate the issues they have indicated, they are well within their right to pull the license. Because, you know, if we don't, and something was to happen, the first hammer that fallen is on Port Authority and Mr. Redhead and his organization not doing their job.
That's correct.
So they're well within their right
to do that.
And at the end of the day, is the protection and safety of people.
The people,
that join these cruises, and you know, they get on and they drink alcohol and have fun and so on. Sometimes excessively.
Exactly.
So you had to make sure that these boats are well seaworthy.
That's
and
right.
licensed appropriately. And if something was to happen, they have the gear to protect the passengers on the ship. I see it as the right thing to do, and we have to ensure that our people are protected.
Chris, the sargassum blossom issue, it's a growing problem for the region. I could tell you that a report put out by the Marine Authority in the U.S. pointed out that the volume of weed this year in the Eastern Caribbean Sea is up 200% based on averages for April. 200%. So that's a lot, and more to come. So prepare. But we've seen what's been happening. We look at the West Hall area, what happened. We're glad to know, because people were worried. They saw this phenomena, the sea change in color, fishes, sea life dying. I didn't know what was causing it, but we know now it's the weed and the chemical reaction to this, to the sargassum is causing that. I also heard there was a press conference that they called by the Minister of Economic Affairs and the Blue Economy Ministry to talk about it, of course, and Solid Waste Authority is also involved, so they have some ideas. They have, but immediately though, I don't see a solution. Yes, we'll be able to gather it, pull it. They're going to store it in different parts of the island for the time being, try to do that. But it's affecting marine life, it's affecting the fishing industry and tourism to some extent. Well, so we have an issue on our hands.
That is another aspect of the environmental concerns that we have. Rising sea temperatures is facilitating the growth of this particular seaweed. So it is something that it has happened. It's been going on more than 5 years now, I believe. And it's getting worse every year in terms of the volume and how it's affecting fisheries and how it's affecting boats how to go out and come in and all of that. So we know that we know the consequences of the increased volumes. The thing in Old Harbor and the effect in Old Harbor was significant because we never saw it in such a huge volume coming in and getting stagnated and what has come. And you know, the release of hydrogen sulfide gas coupled with rotten fish is an issue in terms of smell. And H2S gas, hydrogen sulfide, is a poisonous gas if inhaled at significant quantities. And you hear people in the area where it's very bad talking about how they feel and so on because of constant exposure. But of course, we have no studies to understand how much parts per million will make you sick within a certain environment if wind is blowing or not blowing. So there are other scientific areas around that we need to consider. But at the end of the day, the region needs to come together because there is this conversation about stopping it before it gets to your shores out there, but you need to harness it either via nets or whatever we want to do, and then store it or process it. So it must be a regional project first because it's happening across the region, and particularly on the not the windward side, the Atlantic side. So we need to understand how going forward. And we can't procrastinate on that. If we have to go to GCF and get funding to deal, because it's an environmental issue first.
It is.
And we need to put funding into it to get this situation resolved and not inundate our shores Could you imagine Granans Beach having a huge influx of that and what it will do?
It's a problem. It's a problem. So I'm glad, though, I mean, the fact that the government is addressing it. Chris, we have new banking hours. I think banks are going to be open now on Fridays. That's the change, up to 4 o'clock. So this is excellent for the public, I think, because, Friday evening, people get paid late, So I think that's a good move by the banking, the Association of Banks, or however they're called. I think it's a good thing.
Well, when you look at our labor laws, one of the reasons banks had to cut the hours was because of the labor laws. If you work in excess of 40 hours a week, you have to pay overtime.
Yeah.
So moving from Monday to Thursday up to 2 o'clock and then Friday for extra 2 hours, probably it's not impacting the labor law situation.
Okay.
And banks are offering that. But with ATMs, you still have to wonder why you need the extra 2 hours. I mean, balancing it on all sides. Because you could go to the ATM and extract money and so on once your pay gets there. You go into a bank now primarily to do other transactions. So I hear about it. It's probably convenient for some people, but you have ATMs. So why not look at ATMs
look at that
and see whether you want to work or pay overtime for extra 2 hours. I don't know if
Chris, it's been observed that in the you call that area, West Hall area, where that river flows, that river always overflows. That's where Cardi has its operations there. But I understand people are dumping in that area.
Yes,
I mean, and that is dangerous. You've observed this?
Yes. If you come out of Fort Judy Gap and about 150 meters from heading to St. George's, there's significant dumping of material, stones and mud and so on, right next to the river. So I don't know if it's a reclamation of land or what they're doing there, but obviously if that was to go down into the river course, it's going to cause blockages and so on, and flooding. And when you have serious rains, and because these waters come as far up as Monjaloo and come all up to that area. So I don't know if the authorities are aware of this, and if they have given permission on what is the objective of this dumping there, or if it's just people doing what they want. So, I mean, I hope PPA is listening to us and will look into this and to find out what exactly is happening there.
Needs to be addressed.
Quite a few tons of stuff put there already. So it's something.
Tons, something needs to be addressed. Chris, that's all the time we have for our serious chat. Viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back with Dr. Pierre, Justin Pierre.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. And Allied Laboratories, we're taking care of Grenada.
No, girl, that was yesterday. I can't believe all they said that. She didn't.
Mom, can you help me, please? I'm having some trouble understanding.
No, you serious?
Mom, can you help me, please?
So y'all sit down and say that? Okay then, bye. Here. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's ensure that you're well prepared for this exam.
Parents, you have a crucial role to play in helping to prepare your children for the CPEA exams. Help them or seek additional help so that they can revise the concepts they learn at school and give them a better chance to be successful and move on to the next phase of their lives. A message from the National Parenting Program, Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to MTV Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell, and of course, Christy Ali, co-host. And this evening we have with us, let me just briefly introduce him, Dr. Justin Pierre. And of course, he's a Grenadian. 100% I'm told. He is, of course, a researcher. He's a partner of Dunn Pierre Barnett and Company Limited, a Canadian consulting firm. Dr. Pierre is a labor market consultant also, and of course we will learn a lot about him this afternoon. So welcome to the program, Dr. Pierre. We're really pleased to have you for the next 40 or so minutes. We will learn a lot. So I'll pass you on to Chris immediately, but welcome, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Pierre. How are you?
I'm fine. Good afternoon. Are you hearing me properly?
Yes.
We are. I want to raise the first issue with you regarding the just recently concluded election in Trinidad. And I know your company was doing some work down there in terms of social media monitoring and understanding what was happening there. And the PNM, the incumbent, lost, I would say, significantly to UNC, who we believed, Trinidad has always voted along racial lines historically. So my first question to you is, based on your research and monitoring of social media and what was happening and the views gained by your company, if I'm correct to say that, could you explain to us why Trinidad would have seen that swing in the election results?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris, thank you for having me here. I'm Byron Campbell. Thank you for having me here. And to the listening audience, thank you for having me. As you may all have known about on the 2 weeks ago, our firm made a prediction that the UNC would have been successful in the elections. Our computer model sort of predicted a landslide, and then eventually it came out to be so. With as I said, one of the reasons why we do this type of work is because of the resources we have. We have been collecting data for maybe over the last almost 20 years on the Caribbean population. We saw a need. We saw there was a lot of data in the Caribbean. No one is collecting it. No government is really invested in collecting their data. So we started to do that. With respect to Trinidad and Tobago, we have now been developed into what is called a data broker, in the sense that we collect their data, we sell the insight to persons. And when the Trinidad and Tobago elections were in force, many of the organizations in Trinidad reached out to us to get really kind of precise geospatial data, chronospatial data, sing-sang data, precise data on what is going on, and wanted us to give them an idea. So what we ended up doing was to provide that idea, that sort of service to them. And in terms of in the Caribbean, for example, we see that especially in Trinidad. Trinidad is a very test case. It's a good case to study, in the sense that because of the racial dynamics, people still vote according to racial lines. And we see that, for example, when we conducted the study in Trinidad, we found out, for example, when we conducted our questionnaire, we asked persons, for example, over the last 5 election cycles, what percentage how many times have you changed your votes? And when the persons who were identified as UNC voters ended up, they maintained the same voting, about 81% of the time, compared to what is called an Afro-Trinidadian. He only voted for the same party about 49% of the time. So we see that there is a people vote, especially Indians, they vote consistently for one party. However, Africans, they're really game changer. And we sort of took that data and we were able to sort of use it to make our conclusion.
So Dr. Pierre, let me just, yes,
maybe
how influential in terms of the predictive models that you had and the accuracy of the predictions, how influential was the use of AI technology to assist in that process, particularly on the predictive side?
Yeah. Right. So this is a very good question. So it was AI, as I said, AI is the new type of benchmark. If you're not using AI, you better do something else. You cannot be, let's say, like, maybe done and no, there's other persons who who conduct poll just by interviewing people. Interviewing persons to come up with solution is no longer the correct way. You have AI generation. You have generative AI. You can use AI to help you make predictions. So let me give you an example. So in Trinidad and Tobago, you have what is called most people have cell phones. About 800,000 people are on social media every day. So AI now, you use that type of resources, you create bots, the bots reach out to people. The AI knows how many persons who are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and it reaches out to them and it collects data and bring that data into the central command place, and you can use that information to make analysis. So AI is very, very critical in terms of decision making. So I see that in our case, we relied on AI a lot. We also conducted our own survey. We polled 5,113 persons, which was the largest survey really. And in that pool, 1,731 persons identified themselves as UNC. 1,893 identified themselves as PNM. Persons who 534 persons said they never voted. 387 said that they did not vote either for the UNC or the PNM. And also we include persons from the diaspora. So well based, and it was a very good study. Our margin of error was about 2.9. So we felt that there was enough rigor in the survey to make good predictions, and our predictions came true.
Total.
I'm not getting it.
I said that your models predict the absolute changes in Tobago, because Tobago moved totally more away from UNC and PNM, and a new party is in total control in Tobago.
Yes. So even Tobago, we mainly surveyed, we focused our attention on Trinidad and Tobago, because we felt that in Trinidad and Tobago, there would not have, Tobago was not an issue, because they had so little control over the election cycle. There were only like 2 seats in Tobago. So we did not really focus a lot on Tobago. The battleground was the 41 constituencies in Trinidad and Tobago, and we focused on that. We had a lot of technology on the ground, and so far we were very successful in our predictions.
So I want to transpose that now to the Grenada possible elections is due in 2026, and Prime Minister could call it at any time 2025. Have your company been contracted by any other political players in Grenada to understand how our own dynamics here, based on the level of accuracy that your company has recently done in Trinidad, how we expect our situation here to play out?
Okay, a very good question. The plain answer, well, let me just maybe give you a once upon a time story. Well, we do not know if persons with any of the political parties or the governments may engage in us. Obviously, because we feel that the most important part, or the most important item of the sector is elections. Okay, the voice of the people, and historically, none of the political parties, whether it be the NDC, the NNP, the GULP, the Morris Bishop Patriotic Movement, any of the political parties that have never really invested in research or technology. Most of the time, persons make decisions based on their feelings rather than data. So we see that with historically, decisions have not been made based on data, but just based on the opinion of a strongman. And what we are trying to do is to try to change that, try to let the decisions made by data, by technology, instead of just the opinion of someone. Because the election is too important for us to take chances. So, for example, let's say, for example, if let's talk about the NDC. Let's say, for example, I ask any of the NDC member, any of the NDC leadership, how many single mothers are supporters of the NDC? How many NDC children are in primary school, secondary school, university? How many NDC persons are unemployed? What's the average income of an NDC worker? Nobody knows. Absolutely nobody knows. And I can say the same thing with the other party, because there is this lack of investment, this lack of interest in the Constitution, this lack of interest in the political establishment, in the voting establishment. And this is what we are hoping to change. Because, for example, we have the same software. You can take that software that you have in the United States. We can find out, for example, we just had an election in April 28th, so we can find how many persons, teachers, supported the Liberal, or police officers. So we have really, really good data in North America, but not any type of data in the Caribbean.
So Dr. Pierre, so Dr. Pierre, again, and I want to go into a bit deeper into this, and I want us to look at, let's go back a bit. In June 2022, your company, Don Pierre Barnett and Company Canadian Limited, accurately predicted the general elections, forecasting a win for the NDC in Grenada. I want you to tell us a bit, break it down a bit for us. What was the process or the specific tools used to do so?
Okay, then. So, I mean, I do not want to, what is called, I wouldn't really I would not say that I'm giving away my secret, but I can tell you what happened. So when we look at a country, okay, so let's say we look at any specific country based on a certain type of demographic, a certain type of population size, we in the atmosphere there are what is something called latitude and longitude. So every country is divided into latitude and longitude. Yeah. So that these information are public information. You can go on Google or can go any GPS company, and they will give you that type of information. So we establish that type of information. So we look at the geospatial makeup of the country. Then we look at the parishes. There are, let's say, 6 parishes. Carriacou, let's say 7 parishes. We look at the constituencies. In Grenada, there are 15 constituencies. We also look at the polling stations. I think there are about 132 polling stations. So we break these data up into small pieces and start analyzing them based on certain ratios. So what is it also important? You should also realize that every country, what is called, have a universe. Every country in the world has a universe. So, for example, in Grenada, there is a voter universe. So we look at the voter universe, understand the voter universe. So let's say we can break down the country into, let's say, their geographic locations. Who lives in the urban areas? Who live in the rural areas? We look at political affiliation. We break it up based on age band, based on gender, because based on a certain age, people vote based on a certain age. Based on gender also. Socioeconomic income, ethnicity. We base it based on religion. We look at also sporting affiliation. We also break it up in terms of union and political representative. In terms of voter turnout history, we know historically that NNP supporters have always consistently voted for the NNP over the last 5 election cycles. We also look at, for example, based on employment sector, education level, or also household size. We break up the country based on the media composition. We look at things like support for, in Grenada, let's say support for Maurice Bishop or Bernard Cole or Eric Gary and Innocent Belma. So we broke up, we had this, so we know that, for example, people who support Maurice Bishop tend to vote a certain way. People who support Eric Gary tend to vote a certain way. People who support Innocent Belma. So these are all of the issues that we break the country by, and then what we do most importantly is that we collect effective data so that we can make decisions.
Okay, but again, I want to stay on the subject. You have saying and you're out saying that political parties must transition towards data-driven strategies. Data-driven strategies. How important is data and social influences in an election?
Yeah, it is. These things are very, very important. It is important as a heart attack. However, no one is looking at it. Okay, so for example, when we look at, let's say for example, we look at Grenada. There are, let's say, 135,000 cell phones in Grenada. Your population size, we have about maybe 101 at 1,000 internet users. Okay, and people, none of the political parties are really using this to their advantage. The war, the battle, is on the internet. People still, are still, fascinated by crowd size, but crowd size is not really the main driver in decisions, because the biggest enemy of the PNP, of the NNP, is not the NDC. The biggest enemy of the NDC is not the NNP. The biggest enemy of these two parties are the non-registered voters, the people who are registered to vote but they're not voting. And this is one of it was about 20-something thousand. It was very high this year. So we are, because in our research report, we ask persons why you did not vote. Okay, and some of the answers would shock you. Most of them said that none of the political leaders ever really come to them. They do not treat them. They do not have respect for them. They do not vote. They do not reach out to them. And so we're asking the political leaders to take this information seriously. Reach out to people. And if you reach out to people, if you have a message, if you have certain technology, you will end up being successful.
But Dr. P, of course, we are we are in the question what's happening here with Meta, the social media companies. They are harvesting data. They are harvesting our personal information. And your company, it's for sale. So you're able to purchase this, and a lot of it, because you talk about the emotional layers of the analysis, the social media, the monitoring you talk about. What about the ethics of it? I mean, tell us about the ethical aspect of it. I mean, how correct is this? How right is this?
Well, I mean, it is. For example, when you, I mean, no offense to anyone, to Facebook or Meta, but when you sign up to on Facebook, when in the fine prints, you give consent to that hey, your data information may be used, whatever. So, but when we make those decisions, we maintain the ethical issues in it, because no one names are being mentioned, etc., etc. So a lot of the ethical issues we comply with, and we have never had a problem where someone said that that we give the information out to a third party, etc., etc. So the ethical issues have been on the cover, and we have never had an issue with that. But there are issues in Canada. There are certain laws that would prevent us from doing this kind of work. But however, in the Caribbean, the laws are not there as yet. So so we have to use it until.
Okay, you're on record to say that Grenada is NNP country. Explain to us what exactly you mean by this. Grenada is NNP country. In what context you say?
Well, I mean, I know some of my NDC colleagues have been, will be listening. But what we do is that we try to look at. I mean, we as statisticians, we are blind to the whole issue of data. We don't take sides. So the data will lead us in a certain way, and then we follow it to see where it would end up. So, for example, I think there was a guy by the name of Keith Ventu that was in discussion with him, and he also collected. So let's say, for example, in Grenada, let's look at over the last 30 years, how many persons have voted for the NDC compared to how many persons have voted for the NNP. And there is a clear distinction that over the last 30 years, let's say from 1999 to let's say 2022 or whatever, there were like 170,000 votes were cast towards the NNP compared to 137,000 towards the NDC. There is a clear 32,000 more vote difference. So when we do the calculation, we see that over the last 30 years, more persons have voted for the NNP than the NDC. We also see that the system, the structure of the country, the government, the train line that runs was built by the NNP, and I think that that is very, very important. And looking, for example, in the last elections, when we look at the last election, when we found out why people switch, why people switch from voting is because of maybe a couple of issues. One of the main issues is that the whole pension issue. 35% of NNP supporters they were in favor of pension supporters. They were in favor of paying the pension. Many of the NNP supporters felt that if Dr. Keith Mitchell was re-elected, he would not have paid the pension, and as a result, they end up cast the votes towards the NDC.
So, Dr. Pierre, I want to challenge the model somewhat. When we see what is happening in Grenada now politically, Mr. Peter David's movement, the issue of possibly fracturing the NNP voting base, because both NDC and NNP have a pretty sound voter base based on what has happened over the years. How does your model factor in these changes so that, on the prediction side, what do you think will happen? Because both parties, NNP, NDC, to some extent, and now the Peter David movement, we don't know if it's a party yet or what it will be, but how do you see that interrupting, for want of a better word, the standard basis of both NNP and NDC?
That is a very good question. I don't have all the answers to it. I don't have all the answers, because in order for us to make a decision, we have to conduct some studies. When Peter David made the decision we did what is called an unscientific survey. We interviewed less than 100 persons. And in that case, I think about 11 of them said that they would have, they would have supported Peter. But not many of them said that they would have supported Peter. Most countries are still a two-party states. Most countries in the Caribbean still go based on two parties. And I think that the main players are either the NDC or the NNP, or the NNP and the NDC. Peter David, in my opinion, if he has to be a third factor, it has to do something very quickly, and it takes about really 18 months to get started. So he has to he has to start, and also we have to conduct surveys. And as I said, most parties in the country, none of the political parties are interested in conducting surveys. The whole science of it is not there.
If you were to look at Honorable Emlyn Pierre, as the new leader of the NNP,
yes,
are you of the opinion, I mean, I know you said you have not done no structured research as yet. Do you believe that Honorable Emlyn Pierre, as the new leader of the opposition and the NNP, can hold the NNP voting base to a point where you may challenge and say Peter David may erode some of that and pull it with his movement? Do you think that based on your experience in this sphere over the last 20, 30 years, looking at the political climates in these countries, these island states, and your database, that we may see the emergence or dying of the traditional NNP as it is structured, with Dr. Keith Mitchell and so on still playing an important part as chairman of the party? Do you believe that there is room, and our historical context speaks to it as well? We may start off with 3 but end up with 2.
Right. This is a very good question. So, well, let's look, for example, at the data. Let's go back to the data, the once upon a time story. So when we, in the 2022, when we conducted this study, we knew that Dr. Keith Mitchell would no longer be there. We asked the supporters, the NNP supporters, if Dr. Keith Mitchell, I think it was questions 19 or 17, if Dr. Keith Mitchell would no longer contest the election, who would you nominate? The 2 persons you would nominate for the leader, and we got 4 persons. Okay, we got Emlyn Pierre, we got Peter David, we got someone by the name of Akeem Lambert Paul. So I did interviewed 3 of them, and persons. I interviewed Mr. Patrick, Mr. Peter David. I interviewed Emlyn Pierre, and so they were dedicated. They were assigned the leadership of the party by their members. Okay, in terms of our poll, so that's my personal opinion, and we felt that we knew what happened with the NDC convention. We knew that Peter David did not contest. But I believe, for example, that I felt as a Grenadian and many other NNP supporters, when we reach out to them, this was not done in good taste. It was not done in good taste, because what they were saying is that if Mr. Peter David had contested the election, it would have brought some dynamic, some energy, some flavor to it, some excitement, and it would have been really democracy. And so persons wanted to see these 2 persons contest for it. But since that did not happen, it kind of put a cloud on the NNP. But with regard to voting, in terms of voting, people still vote along party lines. So if Emlyn Pierre is the leader, scientifically, I believe that persons will still support the NNP. and and there are some opportunities for Miss Evelyn Pierre, is because the larger number of voters in Grenada are also women. So she also has to get her act together. You see what happened in Trinidad. You have a woman. You have in Barbados. You have a woman. You know, so in St. Vincent for the Windward Northeast, there's a woman, Dr. Grace Walters. So women are getting more and more exposure.
Do you believe, Dr.
She has an opportunity.
Do you believe, Dr. Pierre, that we have said on this program with different political leaders or those vying to lead, that one of the things we miss in our politics is debates by our leaders or people who are putting up themselves politically to understand if they are faced with certain issues, whether it be environmental, health, social. We were talking tonight about the increase in crime, in criminal activity leading to death. Do you believe that a debate by our political leaders would assist the average Grenadian in making a decision one way or the other in terms of not just blindly following a green or a yellow or whatever it is, but dealing with issues that we may face as a country? We have major issues coming up with energy, with climate change and so on. Do you believe that that is something that can add value to the average Grenadian in their decision making politically?
Yes, I support this question. I believe that we need to engage the leaders and the people must become closer. It's like during, let's say, the Bishop days and the Gary days, where the leaders and the people were like one. So people people like that. We want to hear debates. We want to hear persons interact with each other, and that is why we are calling on the leaders, both the NDC and the NP, to start making your decisions based on data. Okay, based on what the people are asking for. How do you get more persons to vote? How do you get the non-registered voters to really support the party? How would you get the farmers and the fishermen who are who are diametrically opposed to each other in terms of the way they vote? How do you So we need to know and come. The leaders need to come closer to the people and ask questions, have more town hall meetings, have questionnaires, so that this voting, so that we could understand more about the voters. And this is not really being done a lot in here.
Dr. Pierre, unconfirmed reports reaching us, that indicate that the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, they are currently working with the NDC administration, the NDC party. We learned that this Tony Blair Institute, they are there to help government and leaders get things done. This is what they say. What they do is they advise on strategy, on policy, on delivery, using the power of technology. This is what they say. We know, of course, what Tony Blair, he's affiliated a lot with the as the Prime Minister of England and the Iraqi war, but what do you know about this body, and is it true? Could you confirm, do you know that in fact, is it reliable information that they are presently in Grenada and working with the NDC administration? NDC?
Well, that's, I think this question is maybe above my pay grade. However, what I did is that I called the institute, asked them if they had because I heard it, I just couldn't believe it. I said, well, this is just can't be right. I just want to know more about it. So I said, as a researcher, I called the institute and find out if they had an assignment or if they would be having an assignment in Grenada. And I got the answer. But
you asked any concern about the affiliation of, how Tony Blair is connoted, what he's, in terms of his history, his past, and any implications for Grenada? Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. Well, I do not know enough about the situation to make a professional decision on it. But however, as I said, that what Tony Blair, as I said, has a history in terms of his relationship to the global South. Grenada is a part of the global South. We know what has happened in Iraq. We know that I guess we know everything about it, and I think that in decisions, when government makes decisions, the consultation with the people is so important. And I believe that, I don't know all the facts, but I think that if the government had made some sort of consultation, or the NDC had made some sort of consultation with the people, they might have given a different answer.
An earlier question by Chris, I'm not clear on the answer you gave, and that question was, or you weren't specific on the answer. I'm going to ask the question again in a different form. Are any groups, parties in Grenada utilizing your services, or is it confidential at this time? Because having listening to you clearly, yeah.
Well, what I do as a citizen of Grenada, as a citizen of Grenada, what I try to do is to provide. I would like to provide, to see the status of elections get better. I would like to maybe provide assistance to anyone who calls me, because I'm a citizen of Grenada. We have children in Grenada, okay, and we want to assist them. I'm saying that we conducted a study in Trinidad. If the people from the UNC can call me, people from the electoral office can call me, why can someone in Grenada call me? Because we have more data, more information than the NDC or the LNP. We can reach all of the citizen 2-3 keystrokes, because the data is there and no one is taking the data and making use of the data. So we said if no one can do it, we have to do it. Most of the governments in the region do not conduct studies. They wait on international agencies to give them funding to conduct studies. But the issue with elections and the voters is something that is needed for every country. And anyone who wants to reach out to me can reach out to me. In fact, a friend of mine was telling me that the NNP supporters think that I'm a NDC. The NDC supporters think that I'm an NNP, so maybe that's a good thing. Okay?
A good position to be in. Okay, but of course you're constantly monitoring developments in Grenada. That is happening. That's a fact. The present administration is beyond its halfway, just approaching 3 years actually. Yeah. Which is beyond the halfway mark. What is your sense, your analysis, based on the program, particularly the transformative agenda and other factors? What have you been gathering so far? How would you rate their performance, or their to what extent, in your view, they have delivered on their campaign promises, etc.? What is your sense of that based on your analysis, observation?
Okay, good. That's a very interesting question. So just from as it's, we do try to do micro targeting. So the government in itself is performing better. Okay, average. Okay, better than okay. The Prime Minister in itself is in a different league. He is in the media. He is always in the media. His profile has increased a lot. So you have the Prime Minister who is working relentlessly. Okay, there are like 3 main persons in the NDC who are also working, because there is momentum. So you have the Prime Minister that is working. You have the Andy Williams that is working. Okay, we have the Ron Redhead. It's working. You have the Delma Thomas is working in their constituency. So these are the 4 persons that are carrying a lot of the momentum within the NDC. Okay. So, but within the government, sorry, let me correct.
Yeah.
However, with the NDC now, it's a different story. And I think that, in my opinion, my professional opinion, is that there's a lot of work to do within the confines of the NDC. There's a lot of work to do in terms of the structure, how the organization, all of that. And they have a lot of work. The NDC has lost a lot of time in a lot of momentum. For example, in typical election cycles, there is something called a conversion rate between 1 to 6 months or 1 to 9 months in after a new leader has been sworn in. The NDC should have never stopped campaigning. The reason why the NDC should have never stopped campaigning, because the NDC has a lower a number of supporters, an average of 22,800 supporters. They should have never stopped campaigning. And what we have seen for the last 2 years is that most of the time the NDC has just stopped campaigning. Only the Prime Minister, Andy Williams, Delma Thomas, Ron Redhead, these are the persons who have been driving the momentum of the party. And what we need is for the party to be more entwined with the people. When we conducted the poll, imagine we conducted 17 focus group. I said the main purpose was the pension, the employment creation was a big issue, the revamping of the government contract workers, the temporary workers. People were very concerned about that. They wanted that. They voted for that. The issue of the transformation again. They voted for the transformation. Okay, and what we have seen is that the NDC has a lot of work to do. And what we believe is that, because there is no, I don't know if a survey has been conducted among the NDC, but most political parties, they do not know who the members are. What's the percentage of single mothers that are supporters of the NDC? Nobody knows. How many NDC worker persons drive a car? Nobody knows. How many persons has a mortgage? Nobody knows. So none of the organization are taking the leadership are investing in their constituencies, okay, in the people. However, that cannot happen in Canada or the United States, because there are systems in place to deal with it. And this is what we want for the NDC, so that we know the leadership can make better decisions. For the NNP also has the same issue, because the NNP needs to collect data on these constituencies. We know from our data that NDC persons are more migratory than NNP. We know the NNP persons access to transportation. They drive NDC. They drive more. They drive. They have a higher income, etc., etc., etc. But actual data, more data need to be collected.
Dr. Pierre,
this is the issue we have.
Dr. Pierre, we are out of time. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening, and of course we'll always have you back. You're no stranger to us, so thank you very much on behalf of MTV. All of us here, we want to thank you very much and wish you a good evening. Chris, any final closing comments?
No, Dr. Pierre, it was very insightful. As Byron said, we will have you back as we get closer to this election cycle for our country.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Viewers, that's all the time we have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Yeah.
All the best. And thank you.
Thank you. We'll, on behalf of MTV, technical staff and others, we say thank you very much for joining us this evening. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Unity Partnership Initiative.
On behalf of the Grenada Athletic Association, we want to thank Grenlec for the presentation of their check. This is not the first time that they are supporting our character games. I can remember clearly in 2016 they were part of the celebration. They have been there with us and we are very thankful for that.
Grenlec, energizing our community.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
At Bailey's Funeral Home, we are always ready to respond to your call.
And we are here, whether you have a question or need comforting words.
We help to make what is usually a difficult time less challenging for you and your family.
By taking care of your loved ones, treating them with honor, dignity, and respect as we would our own family.
We assist you in making all the necessary arrangements for that final goodbye and help you along the way.
We are committed to you, providing you with the best service, quality products at the lowest prices.
We stand with you from beginning to end as a pillar of strength, comfort, and support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Bailey's Funeral Home, the perfect tribute any family can afford.